All right, we'll call the Education K-12 Committee to order. Madam Clerk, please open up the board for voting, or for the roll call. All right. Madam Clerk, please take the vote, or take the roll. Man, I'm out of practice already.
Mr. Chairman, you have 5 members present. You have a quorum.
All right, thank you. Members, any personal orders before we set to begin? All right, seeing none, we are at item number 16 on our final calendar, on the same calendar we had yesterday. That's going to be House Bill 958 by Representative Slater. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Properly motioned. Representative Slater, you are recognized on House Bill 958.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I do have an amendment to this bill,
Okay, what's the drafting code on that?
4076.
All right, that's what we had. Members, it doesn't make the bill, so without objection, we will vote. Oh, yeah, motion to second on the amendment.
Motion.
And it properly motioned, and I'll second. So without objection, members, we will vote to adopt amendment with drafting code 4076. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. We are back on your bill as amended. You're recognized, Representative Slater.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And committee members, House Bill 958 will create a federal education deregulation cooperative task force to prepare Tennessee for potential changes to the U.S. Department of Education. The 7-member task force is charged with identifying all federal funding for K-12 education, identifying federal requirements for receiving funds, identifying state resources needed to receive federal funds, identifying the number of employment positions funded by federal funds, and will consider whether programs or resources provided by the federal funds should be continued. And with that, I stand ready for questions.
All right, thank you for that explanation. Members, any questions for the sponsor? Representative Akeem, you are recognized.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Rep. Slater, what does the school, not the school, the State Department of Education, does it play any role in that, we'll say those 7 seats, or is it just legislators, or who makes up that 7 persons?
Chairman Slater.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for that question. It's a 7-member task force. 3 of those members are from the House. 1 of those has to be the chairman of the Education Committee. 3 from the Senate. 1, the chairman of the Education Committee in the Senate. And then 1 member would be appointed by the governor, and that member must be a Tennessee certified licensed teacher in the state.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Any other questions for our sponsor? All right, seeing none, I think we are set to vote on House Bill 958. Madam Clerk, please open up the board. Board members, please cast your votes. Would any member wish to change their vote? We'll wait 1 second here.
I got you, I think, on this system.
All right. Madam Clerk, please take the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 5 ayes.
All right, with 5 ayes, the bill passes on to full education. Pass that around. All right, we are going to move ahead to item number 23 without objection. Need to going to take care of both of Chairman Slater's bill. I'm going to have to hand the gavel down to him for a second while I go present a bill in another committee. Without objection, members, will be moving to item number 23, which is House Bill 87 by Chairman Slater. Do I have a motion? All right, properly motioned. And do you have an amendment on this as well?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Yes, Mr. Chairman. That is Amendment 5326.
Okay, 5326. Do I have a motion and a second on the amendment?
Motion. Second.
Properly motioned, and members, it does rewrite the bill, so without objection, we will be voting to adopt Amendment 5326. All those in favor of adopting this amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The ayes have it. We are back on your bill as amended. You are recognized, Chairman Slater, on House Bill 87.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. House Bill House Bill 87 enacts the Learning Pod Protection Act. It does three things. It authorizes parents to voluntarily participate in learning pods, and these oftentimes are called, perhaps your constituents call them cooperatives or co-ops. These are homeschool families. Secondly, it prohibits the state, local governments, and local education agencies from regulating or controlling a learning pod. And then thirdly, it establishes that a child who participates in a learning pod satisfies the compulsory school attendance requirements. And with that explanation, I stand ready for questions.
Thank you, Chairman Slater, for that explanation. Members, any questions? Representative Hakeem, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We basically say that virtual learning is totally independent of the rest of, we'll say, the school system throughout the state.
Chairman Slater?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Representative Hakeem, this bill does not relate to virtual learning. This would, like virtual schools. I wanted to make that clear. This relates to students who are homeschooled. And when a homeschool family gets together with another homeschool family, then what this does is that it calls that a learning pod. And then it allows those families to get together for those purposes, to get together in a cooperative learning environment.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right. Any other questions? All right. Seeing none, we are set to vote on House Bill 87. Madam Clerk, please open up the board for voting. Members, please cast your votes. Would any member like to change their votes? All right. Madam Clerk, please take the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 5 ayes, 0 noes.
All right. With 5 ayes, the House Bill 87 does move on to full education. All right. And I will pass the gavel down to Chairman Slater for a few items.
All right, members, that brings us to item number 17, House Bill 401 by Chairman White. Do I have a motion? Oh. All right, members, no.
We need another.
We'll stand in recess for 5 minutes, lacking a quorum.
We could just go ahead and put these on consent calendar.
We're back in session, and we are ready to hear item number 17, House Bill 401 by Chairman White. Do I have a motion? A second? Motion and a second. And do you have an amendment on this bill?
I'm on. Y'all have 5473 is the correct one? Okay.
All
that's
right,
it.
5473, and does that rewrite the bill?
I believe it does, yes.
All right, members, this rewrites the bill, and without objection, do I have a motion on the amendment? Second?
Second?
Motion and a second on the amendment. Without objection, we're voting on Amendment 5473 being added to House Bill 401. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Your bill is properly amended and ready for explanation.
Okay, thank you, Chairman. Members, what we're trying to do here is last summer, it was brought to my attention when I was visiting schools back home that there's the federal law requires that our pre-K, that any student that has special needs as early as age 3, the federal government requires them to be enrolled in a pre-K program. We're not talking about VPK, but we're talking about this is standard pre-K program for 3 and 4 years old. But the federal government sends no money for this. The state doesn't have any money for it. And like one of the districts I represent, it costs them about $800,000 extra dollars a year because pre-K is not in TISA. That doesn't start until K through 12. So our districts, our public schools, I think statewide, the last figure I got is probably costing our statewide about $80 million for funding SPED pre-K students. And so we drafted this bill to see if we could, the issue would be finding funding. But we're looking for money, and I would be working, hoping if I get this to finance, working on finance, to help our public schools draw down funding for the SPED students and the 3 and 4 year olds that the federal government requires, but there is no funding for that. So that's what we're trying to do. I don't know if with the fiscal note, we actually came up on another fiscal note. We've been working on actually, we're just trying to get anything we can from the state government to help our school districts on this. And so that's what we're trying to do, bring attention to it. I didn't realize this myself, that they were required, 3-year-old, 4-year-old. And I visited some of the SPED classes, pre-K classes, and you may have to have 4 or 5 teachers in a class. You may need one teacher dedicated to one student. So it's very expensive. So anyway, we're trying to find funding for our pre-K in our public schools. With that, I renew my motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman White, question from Representative Mayberry. You're recognized.
Oh, there you go. Chairman, I just want to thank you for bringing this. This has actually been a huge topic within school boards here recently as well. So the Tennessee School Board Associations had a lot of conversation about this exact topic at the last state meeting. And so I'm going to sign on to this bill. So I appreciate you.
Representative, did you want to respond to that?
Please.
Yes, you're recognized.
Yes, I did want to point out that the state does put some money in. I think it's like there's 18 million available, but it just is a drop in the bucket for what it's costing our public schools. So
Thank you.
thank you.
Representative Hakeem, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Basically, what we're saying is we're passing this with the thought, the understanding of what can be done in the Finance Committee going forward.
You're recognized.
That's true. We've been working on this for a while and trying to find different levels that we can get. Any amount that that the state can come up with on this would be helpful. It's just an unfunded mandate that we have, and rightfully so. We have special ed need students, and but the federal law is as early as 3 years of age, 3 and 4, going into a pre-K program. Once they hit kindergarten, it's funded anyway through TISA because of special needs in the TISA formula.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Any other questions for our sponsor? Seeing none, without objection, we are voting on House Bill 401 to head out to full education. Members, please cast your votes. Has every member voted? Madam Clerk, please announce the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 5 ayes, 0 noes.
House Bill 401 moves out to full education. That brings us to item number 18 by Chairman White, House Bill 409. Do I have a motion? I have second, properly motioned, properly seconded. And do we have an amendment on this bill?
We do. Yes, here we go. 4742.
4742. Members, do I have a motion on the amendment so we can add it to the bill? I have a motion. Do I have a second on the amendment? Chair will second. Properly motioned, properly seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The amendment is added to the bill. Chairman White, you are recognized on House Bill 409 as amended.
Hey, yes, members, I will leave this to the will of committee. I received this, took this on from a member in the Senate last fall before we dealt with the EFS in January. But what this bill was asking for is an expansion of the ESA in the counties of Clarksville, Montgomery, Knox County, and Rutherford County. You know, currently it's in Shelby County, Davidson County, and Hamilton County. So anyway, they just want to expand the ESA.
Okay, thank you for that explanation. Questions for the sponsor, Representative McKenzie, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And to the sponsor, yeah, this one struggle with, of course, because it has Knox County. I think Knox County was in the previous one and pulled out. But more important, as you said, I think at the beginning, with the the adoption of what we did during special session, I don't think this bill is something that consider at this time, maybe on down the road, but at this point, I can't support this particular bill. But thank you.
Any other questions from our members? Seeing none, we are ready to vote on House Bill 409. Madam Clerk, if you'll open the board for voting. Madam Clerk, if you'll take the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 1 aye, 2 noes, and 1 present not voting.
House Bill 409 fails for lack of a majority vote.
Yeah, you push the button.
All right. That brings us to item number 19, House Bill 1373 by Chairman White. Do I have a motion? Properly motioned, properly seconded. And do you have an amendment on this bill?
See if we've got one on this particular bill.
We're not seeing an amendment on
showing
that.
it, no.
So
Not showing
your bill has been properly motioned, properly seconded, and you're ready to be heard on your bill.
Thank you. Members, I received this bill. I carried this years ago with Senator Farrell Hale. I think it's a great bill. It's called a school turnaround bill. And it's where the bill allows districts to choose an external partner to support improvement created. They created a 4-year program for our priority schools. And this has been, we did a 5-year pilot. And the Department of Education chose 5 schools to participate in the pilot, 2 in Shelby County, 1 in Madison County, and 1 in Davidson, and then 1 in Hamilton. Well, the schools partnered with an approved vendor to develop a unique turnaround plan and begin implementing it in year 2. So it has done so well. Only one, we pulled back on the one in Hamilton County, but the other 4 counties have been very successful. They've seen good results. So Senator Hale, now they want to make this more of a permanent program. So the House Bill 1373 creates a permanent school turnaround program and increases the maximum number of priority schools that may participate up to 15 schools. So I visited a school in my county in Shelby and Memphis where I watched this going on. And they really was able to move in and kind of give some direction and some coordination on best laid plans for that. It's been successful, and would like to see it expanded where the schools can jump in on this if they so desire.
Thank you for that explanation, sponsor. Representative McKenzie, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, and you may have touched on it there at the end. Can the schools jump in on it, or is there an application process? Is it based off of their achievement or lack of achievement? How are these 5, 10, and then 15 schools chosen?
They do have to be a school that I believe is in the priority list, which is the 5%. And then they will make application. There are several turnaround agencies in the state that they can contract with. And so they actually make application with them, I think through the Department of Education.
Follow up?
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions for our sponsor? Seeing none, we are ready to vote on House Bill 1373. Members, please cast your vote. Has every member voted? Madam Clerk, please take the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 6 ayes, 0 noes.
House Bill 1373 moves on to full education. All right, I'm going to pass the gavel to Chairman White. No.
Okay, members, we're on item number 20, House Bill 1051 by Representative McKenzie. Do I have a motion and a second?
Motion. Second.
Got a motion and a second. Okay, do you have any amendments on the bill?
Yes.
You're recognized.
Yes, I do. Amendment 4837.
That is correct.
Motion on the amendment.
You got a motion and a second. Do you have a motion? You got a second? Yes. Okay. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I know there's someone, I think, on the list to testify on this particular.
Okay. First of all, without objection, we need to adopt the amendment on the bill. Any objection to the bill, the amendment being added to the bill? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. So your bill is properly amended. And we have 2 people who want to speak on this particular bill. Yes, sir. You're recognized.
I think there's just one because we didn't know whether it's going to be today or yesterday. So I think there's just
understand.
one.
Okay. So you have anything else to say, or you want to go ahead?
We can go out of
Without
session.
objection, we're out of session. And do we have come forward, whoever it was, and I've got 2 names, Zan Lasco and Elizabeth Shepard.
Zan Lasco.
Zan Lasco. Okay, Ms. Lasco, if you will state your name and your position for the record, then you may begin.
All righty. My name is Zan Lasco. I am the Intellectual Freedom Chair for Tennessee Association of School Librarians, and I'm also a retired librarian from Rutherford County. Thank you for allowing me to testify today in support of House Bill 1051. And thank you also for your work on behalf of Tennessee students, especially in reading and addressing America's literacy crisis head on. As the Intellectual Freedom Chair for the Tennessee Association School of Librarians, or TASL, I am asking that you support this bill because it will benefit the students, as well as librarians, administrators, and school boards. This bill will also cut out the confusion and wasted unnecessary costs associated with the Age Appropriate Materials Act. For our students to become successful, they need to think critically, use complex text and multiple points of view. Books are windows to the world they live in and mirrors to reflect themselves and society. Students need the freedom to conduct involuntary inquiry in school libraries, to gain knowledge about what interests them and explore the world around them. That cultivates lifelong learners who develop into well-rounded citizens. HB 1051 is needed because the amended Age Appropriate Materials Act has brought chaos and confusion to schools and school board meetings. This impacts students. Books are being pulled without following a review process in some districts, even taking them from students' hands. This is disruptive and does not support student learning. Due to this new law, librarians fear for their jobs, and clearly administrators are fearful too. Last year, TASL conducted a statewide survey to get feedback from librarians on the impact of the Age Appropriate Materials Act. We found that over 1,400 plus titles have been removed thus far. The books removed range from Nobel laureates to historical literature that defines generations. This is an egregious and costly endeavor. To put this in perspective, at an average cost of $20 per book, it can add up to thousands of dollars. Most districts give only a quarter of that cost each year for new books. In addition, librarians, administrators, and school boards have been given conflicting advice. In our survey, 20% of TASL respondents said they were told to remove books without going through a review process. Before this act, I want to emphasize that librarians have had an existing reconsideration processes that have always given parents the choice to request their child not check out or be assigned a book. Defending the amended Age-Appropriate Materials Act could take even more school funds and instigate unnecessary lawsuits. In Texas, Arkansas, Alaska, Florida, Colorado, and other states, laws such as this have cost school districts or libraries upwards of $100,000 or more in each case. In all the states mentioned, many or all of these books have been returned to the shelves. Please vote in favor of HB 1051. It focuses on students as lifelong readers, parents' rights, and librarians that use best practices to support them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Members, would you like to ask our guest a question while we're out of session? Yes, sir, Representative King.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Could I ask you, what kind of impact does this have on rural libraries?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question because just like the testimony you heard yesterday about how rural counties are struggling without funding, these libraries can't replace books because they're struggling just to make budget and pay teachers. Some of these libraries, commonly in rural counties, have one librarian that goes to 2 or 3 schools. So they are at a severe disadvantage in that respect.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A term I guess I'm trying to get a better understanding on.
Mm-hmm.
What is shadow banning?
Okay. Shadow banning happens when librarians and administrators are fearful. So instead of having someone come up and say, oh, I don't know about that book, they kind of like, well, this might or might not. And especially we've had zero guidance from the state. Even our own school board in Rutherford County asked for guidance from the state, nothing. And so what's happened is they're just like, well, this might be, I don't know. This might be, I don't know. You know, what an attorney in Knox County is saying is not the same as what an attorney in Rutherford County is saying. And without any guidance from the state, we're all at a loss. So librarians need their jobs. I've had librarians come and say, you know, I'm the sole earner in my family. I can't lose my job. So they take a book off the shelf because they're not sure. This hurts all our students. It becomes an equity issue because students in this, you know, especially if it's an AP title, you know, if it's something that's been used on the AP test and it's not available, then we have students that can't afford to go out and just purchase that book, you know, and the classroom teacher might have 1 or 2 copies and she can't do that. You know, there's not enough to go around.
If I could, one last.
You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess I'm looking at our nation, and we've invited people here from around the world. And I guess that diversity has assisted us in becoming the great nation that we are. If I guess banning books, does that mean it's more monolithic, one thought, one way of seeing the world? Does that enhance our children's learning or does it take away from it?
Well, obviously, if our kids only see one perspective, then they're not seeing the worldview. I was in Amsterdam a couple of weeks ago, and just seeing the diversity, not just in our state, but in all states and in the nation and across the world, that makes a difference. And they need to be ready. You know, my son, all my kids went to school here. He's working in Amsterdam now. It's all over. It's being able to see that worldview makes a huge change in your perspective. You understand more.
You're welcome. Anyone else would like to have, we're on House Bill 1051, item number 20 on our calendar. Anyone else while we're out of session would like to ask our guest a question? Seeing none, well, thank you so much for being here. Appreciate it. Okay, we're now back in session. We're open up to the committee for questions. Representative Kaminsky.
So,
Go ahead.
thank you. So in 2022, the General Assembly passed the Age Appropriate Materials Act. This law was part of a nationwide attempt to censor materials in Tennessee schools and across the United States. The law required schools to maintain a current list of materials in the on the school's website and have a selection policy and a reconsider policy. And the schools must have a procedure to procedurally review the collection. And then the law was further amended to allow for work to be judged in whole or part, and the work cannot include prohibited topics or that are patently offensive. Now, I'm not against maintaining a list of materials or having a selection policy and a procedure to periodically review the school selection to ensure the items are age appropriate. What I do have an issue with is the confusion and unintended consequences caused by this legislation, these pieces of legislation. Students are not able to access complex text, as our guest said, that may be AP type materials. Librarians and teachers are self-censoring out of fear. And the law has been misinterpreted to remove books, any book containing LGBT characters or themes. In 2014, the American Library Association said that there were 182 titles challenged. In 2023, the number grew to 4,240. One of our counties in the state, Wilson County, banned nearly 400 books, including Toni Morrison's The Bluest Eye and Maya Angelou's I Know Why the Caged Birds Sing. In Knox County, we banned about 40. So this has an inherent disparity across our state. What my bill does is to maintain materials in the library collection that must be suitable for age and maturity level of the student. This bill states that the books cannot be excluded or removed based on the origin, background, views of the author, and the books must not be removed due to partisan, ideological, or religious disapproval. The bill does not remove the ability to challenge a book that is violent or pornographic. The bill does give power back to the local school boards. Local school boards of education must adopt policies for developing and reviewing the library collection of schools. If a book is deemed unsuitable, then there's a process for removal. So with that, I renew my motion.
Thank you, Representative Mayberry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've actually been on the other side of this as well as a school board member, and the Age Appropriate Materials Act of 2022, when it was put in place, I've seen that process on the school board side. We've not been banning books. We've been removing sexually explicit materials. We have not targeted, as Representative just shared, LGBTQ books. There are plenty on the shelves in Clarkson Montgomery County still, if they're not sexually explicit. But authors like Ellen Hopkins and Sarah Maas have no business being on our kids' public library shelves. We need to make sure that we maintain not to have these sexually explicit materials, and I can't support this legislation because of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else want to?
Did I reply?
You may respond.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And for those two books, I'm sure you and I are in lockstep agreement. But again, what I said during my comment is exactly what you're saying. Montgomery County may have done, probably did, I'm not there, probably did an outstanding job. But the problem is people are misinterpreting issues, and people are looking to pull materials not based on the law of 2022, but based on their own preconceived notions. I'm sure those two books would not have made any cut. And I dare say that if I looked on the Knox County list, those two authors may be on that particular list. That's not what this bill does. What this bill does is basically give it gives the rights back to, as you said, your local libraries, but it allows them to clearly define the standards that are used. And it's not just what I would call, dare I say, a willy-nilly decision based on proclivities, religious, sexual, whatever practices. So this bill helps define a clear path for how a book is removed from a school.
Representative Hakeem, then I have a comment, but you go ahead.
All right, I'll be brief, Mr. Chairman. I believe I heard both of my colleagues in reference to sexually explicit books, that I'm going to use the term, this was a no-no. And I guess, I mean, other than that, I think y'all are on the same page. And well, I'm just hopeful that both of you can come together and vote on this. Thank you. Thank you.
Here's a question. Of course, the age appropriate bill we passed a couple years ago. Representative Mayberry, you've been on the school board, right? Let me ask you this. There's one part of the bill where it says, and correct me if it was changed since the update on the site, prohibits a material from being excluded or removed from a library collection or classroom library because of the origin, background, views of the individual who created the material, or partisan, ideological, or religious disapproval of material. Does that tie the hands of a school board? And then I'll ask the sponsor. As far as what we've done before, if it says prohibits a material from being excluded, you recognize.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It definitely would put some boundaries on there, what they could and cannot do. The way it's been functioning right now, I don't see a problem. If this action or this bill is to remove what's there and replace with this other, if it was a bill to update maybe some parts of it, I can maybe be on board, but to completely redo this when I believe it's been working well, and there was an update last year that made it even better for the process, because when it was originally put into law, I remember getting a little frustrated because someone would go and appeal a book and they would maybe get caught up at the local level. And if we're to escalate to another level, it had to continue to be appealed. And this body last year, I believe, or the year before, changed it where it would just automatically step up all the way up to the school board. But it's going well. I had not seen the negative effects, which I've heard about today. And so I believe that it's going well.
Well, I asked the question because our guest was saying how, you know, a lot of times we pass bills and it gets down at the local level and there's confusion on what to do and everything. I just don't know if this kind of undoes what we did or support it. But Representative McKenzie, weigh in.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, no, this bill leaves that intact. That the piece that you just read remains intact within my bill. If it doesn't do anything to that piece that you just read on the bill. So and what I'll say is that you know, our kids' minds are dynamic at that point, and they're varied. I give the example of me. I've told this story a couple of times today. I was a huge stutterer. I couldn't get one sentence out, and it was reading that helped me, and not just reading, you know, Jane and John books, but those dynamic books that challenge me, that have some of the conversations that I probably was hearing in the restroom that we may be closing our ears over in middle school and in high school. But it allowed me to think outside of myself. And some of those books will be taken off the shelf because of someone or some group of people's proclivity. So that to me is the damage that's being done currently. As I stated earlier, we've gone from 183 to 4,000 in 9 years. That means some people's personal biases are going in. So what this legislation attempts to do is to keep those biases out and leave it to the experts and the elected officials.
Anyone want to follow up on that? I just know the bottom line is we just passed a bill about cell phones in the classroom because of the social media and all the things that our children are exposed to. We live in a society now where it is like, all rules are off. So we really had to watch, we'll pay attention. And that's why we put things in place. But anyone else want to comment on the bill? Seeing none. Anything else? I'll let the sponsor have the last word. You're good? Oh, waiting on your light.
Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Chair, for your allowing this conversation. And it really has been a good conversation. And as Rep. Hakeem said, I don't think we're a long way away at all on what we want. We want what's best for our children. Something's going to have to take the place of that social media ban, which I voted for and I support, because it can't. There's several things on there way beyond those authors that we just went back and forth on. Why not put a book in their hand instead? Why not give them something challenging to read and aspire to be, or read and say, wow, how did they come up with those concepts? Those are some complex concepts, some adult concepts, maybe not, depending on their age. But as they mature, be able to put that book instead of that cell phone in their hand, and we can be able to have our next generation be the best generation ever. So with that, I renew my motion.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the discussion. Yeah, I'm all for putting a good book in their hands. I just want to make sure it's age appropriate and things that help them and not hinder. No more discussion. Any objection to the question being called? See no objection. Would the clerk please take the vote? Madam Clerk, call the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 2 ayes, 4 noes.
Thank you. The House Bill 1051 fails for lack of majority. Okay, we're now on item number 21, House Bill 1052 by Representative McKenzie. You're recognized.
Motion.
Okay, you have a motion and a second. Do you have any amendment on this?
I do have an amendment that makes the bill
Okay. Let's see.
6221.
That is correct. Does it rewrite the bill or does it just, okay. So any objection to that?
Motion.
I need a motion. Got a second? Yes, okay. Need a motion second. We got that. Any objection to adding the amendment to the bill for proper discussion? No objection. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Your bill is amended. You may now explain.
Thank you. This bill really gets into, what I think we need to start seeing as a result of our special session and the passage of our a new way of funding public and private education. What this bill will do, we'll say what our to give us data to see how we're doing, who's using these vouchers and how those vouchers are being used. We're going to ask the Office of Research and Education Accountability, OREA, in the Comptroller's office to collect this information if it's provided. So that's a clear point. If the DOE provides this information, what we want to do is to collect the information that talks about who's getting the vouchers, the number who has been in the program for 2 years or more, the number of people, the recipients who were enrolled in public school, so we can get a feel for what that numbers looks like. I think if we looked at the fiscal note during the special session, they said maybe 65% would be students already in private schools. Let's verify that number. Let's see how we get to that number. Maybe it's 85% in private schools. Maybe it's 25%. And then which one were the first time enrollees? Whether they're coming in, that tells us whether they're coming in at the kindergarten level or coming in at the 6th grade level. It will help us develop a better program, but more importantly, help us understand how the program is moving throughout the state. So this is just it's I guess permissive from the Department of Education standpoint. If they're collecting that data, all we're asking the comptroller to do is to give us a report. So with that, Mr. Chair, I renew my motion.
Thank you very much. Representative, did you talk to OREA about this? You recognize?
Thank you. Yes, talked to OREA, and their initial concern was I did not have if the information was available. And that was with them talking to the Department of Education. They didn't want to compel, rightfully so, didn't want to compel the department to collect data that they're not today. But once they were okay with that, with my change, if the information is provided, they're very comfortable with providing this.
Okay. I just want to point out, now you got in your bill though, an annual report. Now, if you can ask me, I will ask them and they will do that report. We don't need legislation to get this information. We can just request that from the Education Committee. Now, if you want to do annual and everything, we'll have to talk about it, but you don't need a bill for this. You're recognized.
Thank you. You know, I definitely understand, and that's I think that works on an individual basis. But what I would like to have, you know, this committee and we can look at ways of doing that. But what I was wanting is one package that said for all members and all, not just on a as I request, it comes to me or comes to you, that we get a report every year to see the effectiveness of the program. It's a pretty significant program that we're building here, and we're building this program. We have not taken our first student into this particular one. You know, we had the one in the targeted counties, but this is our first statewide attempt. So what I was looking forward to get an annual report that we could all take a look at.
Okay, Representative King.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would only add that what is it, Comptroller's Office, I guess I use the term, has more than a degree of credibility that people would feel comfortable with. And if I'm reading this correctly, the cost is insignificant. Is that correct? Okay.
That is correct.
All right, thank you.
Representative Slater.
Thank you, Chairman. And two items here. First of all, is already has been pointed out, the Comptroller's Office will put together this report. And also, along with that point, the Department of Education will have this based on the applications. But then my second point is this, is you've already mentioned, this program has not been implemented yet. So I think, and for that reason, I'd like to make a motion to roll this to next year's calendar. So that's my motion.
That is the motion before us. So do I have a second? Okay, let me go back to the sponsor right now.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Now, I think our chair had said that the department, we can get this information from the department, not necessarily the comptroller.
Yes, and as Chairman Slater said, the information is not there yet. The OREA, they do these reports based upon requests, but they only have so much staff. I'm just a little hesitant to say that we can put this on them annually at this point. We can ask them for this report and then we can move on from there. There's a different way of doing this than passing legislation, because they do get a lot of requests, and then they come to the Education Senate, Education House, and say which ones are important to you. So I think this is not a bad request. I just don't think we need it in legislation. Go ahead.
With that said, and with the Representative Slater's comment, I am comfortable with moving this to the first calendar next year, as you said. Yes. Thank you.
Okay, without objection, we have a motion and a second, move to the first calendar of next year. Any objection to the question? All those in favor, move to the first calendar. We're on House Bill 1052. Please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. And I will work with you on that. Okay. That completes our K through 12 calendar. So any objection to us adjourning? Okay, one second.
Just before we
Okay,
adjourn.
we're not adjourned yet. Oh, yes. Thank you to the clerk always. We appreciate that. And Sergeant at Arms and Chairman Slater, you wanted to be recognized too.
Well,
I was waiting on Chairman Haston, but he didn't come back in.
that's where I was going to go. And I hate that we're having to close. Yeah, he's in committee right now. I hate that we have to close without the chairman of K-12. I'd say that he's done an excellent job and do appreciate all of the staff, our clerk, our sergeant at arms, his assistant, legislative assistant, and research analyst, and then legal. And it's been a pleasure to serve on this committee. And I think I speak for all of our members here in great discussions on K-12. And thank you so much.
Anyone else? And thank you for our guests being here today. And without objection, we're adjourned.
Get the call.
Subject to the call of the chair.